Alright, what I've done here is I've put the piece in the vise here, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my chisel and I'm going to wind up chamfering all four edges to come to a little point, and then we'll cut it off and glue it on. So what I'm going to do here, I got this little handy magnifying LED, or fluorescent lamp I should say, as a middle magnifier, and what I'm going to do is just kind of try to keep this out of your way while I can still see and work on the piece here. That should be good. Let's have a look here. Okay, so now I'm going to come in from each angle, from each corner, and work my way to the middle. And in order to do that, I'm going to keep my fingers real close to the edge here so it has control. And I'll push a little bit with my thumb going forward, but most of my pushing is going to come from my right hand. So I'm going to come up here and just slowly, blackwood is extremely dense wood, it's a hard wood, so you need sharp, real good sharp tools. And I'll just keep coming at this and then come at it from each angle. And then once I get to a point where these two sides over here are good, then I'll loosen up the vise, take the piece out, rotate it, clamp it back down, and then come at it from the other side. Like this. It's going to take some time. This isn't going to be a fast process, especially because of the way that we're doing it here. But I'm going to keep at this, and then when it's done, I'll show you what it looks like. Now, I probably just moved this right out of your way, didn't I? Yeah, brilliant me. Alright. So, we'll keep working at this. And I keep coming up, and I don't just go straight up. I did that originally with my mallet. I would come in like this, at an edge like this, and then I'd hit with the mallet and come up like that, just to get the basic shape going. Alright? And then once I've got that basic shape, then I'll start working at it from the sides to create that chamfered look, get the point close to the middle as I can, and then we'll cut it off at the length that I want it, and then we'll see about gluing it on. So I'll get these finished, and then we'll get them glued up. Alright, so what I've decided to do for the pulls here, I've done 3 of them. I've got 1 more to go, and I was in a debate. I'm either going to go with this style. Can't really see it. I'm going to need more light here. Let's pull this fluorescent light over. Let's see if you can see through this or not here. That's alright. It goes right through the screen. Cool. Alright, so I was either going to go with a pull like this, chamfered right to a point, give it that hand carved look to it, or I would go with, let me put the chisel down before I cut something, or I would go with this little bit of a diamond shape to it. So I was humming and hawing over this for a while, and I like both of them, but I think I'm gonna go with the diamond style. So, in order to do that, what I need to do is get this out of the way for one. And I'm going going to zoom in here just a little bit more, get the light back on here. That should be good. And then what I do is I take my chisel and my homemade mallet that if you've seen one of my other little shows here, little episode there, the video on some small scrap wood projects, you would see this mallet is on there. It's just all pure African Blackwood. Anyways, what I do is I take the chisel, I go down about 1/8 of an inch, and then I angle the chisel to go straight from corner to corner, and then with the mallet I just start tapping away, and I keep my fingers, I pinch here pretty tight. I try to keep this, if it starts going off to the side as I'm chiseling, I pull it back in to try to keep it in the middle, or just kind of a side to side like a shear cut, and then I kind of just tap this through harder and harder, trying to keep this under control. Alright, so I got that one side done. Alright, now I'm going to come around to the other side here. So I'll take this and just kind of turn it like that. See if I can get some more light on there. It's going to be a little tricky here, trying to keep this all well lit and looking at the camera and trying to figure out if you can see or not. So anyways, I'm going to bring this side now down. I'm going to try to go parallel from here over to here. Right? I want to keep the angle as close as possible, but I still want this to look like it's been hand cut. I don't want this looking like something I got from Walmart or something stupid. So I do approximate there. You know, I don't take a ruler out and measure and mark and all that stuff, just by eye. You know, I'm just going to trust myself. And then I'm going to bring this back down. I'm going to push this up into the wood fairly hard, you know, just so I can keep it there, keep it from sliding all over the place. And then I'm going to tap again, and I'm going to try to go from corner to corner. So I'm going to tap a little bit just so I can get the tip of the chisel in there so it holds. And then I can tap a little bit harder, and a little bit harder. Alright, and then we've got two sides that are done. Alright, I'm not going to fiddle with this now. I'm not going to fine tune it now. What I want to do is get the other side done. And the reason why I put sandpaper here is so that you can see better, because otherwise it makes it a little bit difficult with a darker background. So if I put this here, I don't know if that made it any better or not. Huh, what do you know, it makes it worse. Alright, let's get this out of there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this side, and I can either come from this side or this side, it doesn't matter, you know, it's hang on a second here. Okay, so I can either come from this side or this side. It doesn't really matter, as long as I take the average of what this was. So let me just get this here so you can see it. And then I'm going to come here and kind of just eyeball it straight from where I started from the tip down here. And then I'm just going to, what looks level, come over. And then I'm going to push in just a little bit as I slide this. That'll give me just that little bit of a starting point. And then, again, light taps so I can get my chisel in there so it's got a foothold. And then again, I'm going to try to go corner to corner. So here we go. Light taps, and then go harder. Alright, so you can see, I hope you can see, you can kind of see how it's getting started here. Maybe if I did this. Yeah, that's not going to work. Alright, so I'm going to come to the other side here and finish the fourth corner. Alright, and then I'm going to come about level, approximate, doesn't have to be exact. We don't need calculus here. And then, again, corner to corner, light taps. I'm going to push this down a little bit so I get a sharper angle. The more I push down on the handle of the chisel, the more I bring the chisel down, not up, down, then the bigger the diamond shape in the middle is going to be. If I bring this up higher, it's not going to be much of a diamond point. So what I would have to do after I get it all cleaned up just a little bit, then I'd have to take this to the sandpaper, hope it's flat, sand it down to make the diamond bigger. So instead of having to do all of that, I'm going to bring this to a very sharp angle, drop the handle down as low as I can get so I can get started with the mallet, tapping it in there, trying to keep my chisel in the center. Alright, once I've got that established, once I've got that chisel in there just that little bit, now I can drive it a little harder. Alright, and now, if you can see it, there's your little diamond right there. So now if I need to, I can clean it up a little bit by coming in, if I have to, and either by hand, just wiggle it in there, trying to get from corner to corner. Alright. If I don't want that diamond so big, then I just lift the handle up a little bit. And I can take away, because if I bring the chisel down, it leaves this as a big diamond shape. If I bring the chisel up, it's going to take more of this wood away, and then I'll have a smaller diamond. But I don't want it too small. And I also have to be aware of how much to work each side. I don't want to overwork the side. That's the last thing I want to do. Then I'll have an offset diamond, and then it'll really look like a hand-cut job by then. So I'm going to clean up this side. I should straighten this out just a bit. Make it easier for me to chisel it. Alright, so from what I can see here, this side's good, this side's good, this side's not bad, but this side here needs work. This is the side here that I got to work on. I got to kind of, this is not going corner to corner, this is going corner to the middle of this side here. So I'm going to need to come back over this way on this kind of an angle and come up here. So let's fix that up. I'm not bringing the chisel further down here. I don't need to start further down here. But what I need to do, I'm just going to raise the handle just a bit, and I'm going to bring this more of an angle so it's sharper to go right from edge to edge. Got to get in there a little bit, and now I'm going to drop the handle down again once I get my chisel in there. Try and keep it in there, not let it bounce around, otherwise I'm going to have these big monster ridges in there that I'll have to get out, and that becomes a pain, especially in Blackwood. There we go. Now it's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. So I'm going to come back here, just touch this up just ever so slightly, and boom, Bob's your uncle, baby. Look at that. Cameraman, zoom it. Look at that. It's not perfect, but it's a hand cut effect, and it's a real nice decorative feature for those drawers. Okay, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to cut this to be 3/8 of an inch. Let me zoom out here so we can get this a little bit more in focus for you. We're going to get this, cut this to 3/8 of an inch, and that'll provide enough of a pull for me to get my fingers on there and still be able to pull that drawer out. So we're going to cut this at 3/8 of an inch, and then we're going to glue them on. Alright, so here it is. We got this 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to mark this off with my little China marker pencil here. So we're going to go 3/8 of an inch. Good way to go level. Just like that. Okay. So 3/8 of an inch is going to be right. 1, 2, 3. Right about there. Alright, so we're going to drop this in here. We're going to cut it to where I need it. There we go. Got a little space for the saw so I don't wreck the saw on the vise. Tighten it down real good, because I don't want that to move on me. Alright, and then when I cut, I keep my thumb up against the side here as a guide. I put the saw just to the left of the line, because I'm going to end up sanding this. After I saw it, I'm going to rub it on sandpaper so I can get rid of any of the saw marks, and so I won't end up making this too small. So, let me zoom in here and see if we can get this. There we go. There we are. Alright. Alright, so there we go. So I'm going to cut this now and then sand it down, fit it in, see how she looks. So, with my thumb against the saw as a guide, I take my saw and I draw it back once. Try to keep it straight. So twice, and then we can continue. Don't push down on the saw, let the saw do the work. Almost through. I lift up on the saw just a little bit so I don't get much in the way of tear out. And then, voila. Now I'm going to sand this off. And then we've got my drawer pull. Let me get this here for you. Alright, and then we have the drawer pull. That's it. It's got that nice hand cut effect. So we just grab some sandpaper. Get all out of the way. Get the sandpaper, put it down there, and then we take our drawer pull, and then we simply just a circular motion. And then just a couple like that, just to flatten it. And then what I want to do is just on the sides, once, turn it over, once, just to get off anything from the sides there on the back, and that's it. That's all it needs. So now we can take this and put it on, if I can get this thing to come around. There. Now, you're going to see a few drawer pulls on there because I was looking at a couple different styles. And I have actually ended up deciding on the one I wanted. So now it's just a matter of getting them on. So, this one, this one, this one, and you are not good. You are just a scrap piece. And then we fit in, just to see how this is going to look, I'm going to put in number 1. Screws there. And this is number 4. After I sanded it off, I kept track of which ones was which, and I marked the numbers on the bottom, and they're just going to stay that way. It also just gives that a little extra done by hand kind of a look to it. Now I just want to position this to be something half decent. You know, your eyes are going to be kind of focused from the top looking down. So now it's a matter of how I want this to look. So what I'm going to do, let's move the camera over here so you can see a little bit better, because the focus here is going to be on these drawer pulls now. So let me zoom in on one of them. Let's zoom in on this one here. But I gotta get the whole drawer in there. Alright. So now, what we want to do is we want to have a quick look to see how it's going to look as it faces each way. So what I want to know is it better looking by going the longer side from side to side, or do I want it to be something like this? So we can do it like this to check. I can do 2 where it goes length, the longer ends go side to side, and then 2 where the longer part goes up and down along with the grain, as opposed to not with the grain, across the grain. Alright, so that's kind of the way it's looking. And I'm sure this is going to be kind of a miserable look here. Let me just take this off the tripod so we can get a better look. This is basically the look. Either we can go with it being up and down like this, or that's how it would look, or a crossways like that. So I can either go like that, or we can go like that. But I think what I'm going to do is I think I like that look better. It just seems to kind of flow a little nicer. So we're going to have it like this. So now what I'm going to do, I got to go get my square and my 6-inch ruler. I have to very, 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 very gently mark the center and just tack it with like a little scratch-all or something, just a little dot, and then we'll get some glue it in there, and then we're ready for the finish. So I'm going to get that all set up, we'll get this glued on, and I'll be back in a few minutes. Alright, just going to show quickly how I got to the center point here. So what I did is I measured, I went by eye what I felt was pretty close to center. I got really lucky on this first shot. And this is 3 3/16, which means I'm going to need to go 1.5 plus a 1/16.5, which puts it right about there. So then what I do is I just rest my scratch-all on there just to hold it, and then I got to figure out how much up and down I got to go. So when I measure from the top up here and then to the bottom, it levels out right at 2 1/8, which means I have to be at 1 1/16. And if you look at that, I got lucky. That's 1 1/16 right there. So that's center. So all I need to do is just with my knuckle, you know, nothing too major. Let me zoom out here and show you. Alright, get this up here. The person who's going to edit this is going to have a lot of fun. Alright, so while I'm holding this here, all I have to do is just with my knuckle, that's it. All I need is just that little tiny little dent. There, you can see it right in the middle. It's right there. All I need is just that little indent. That'll tell me where center is. So when I put a drop of glue on, a little cyanoacrylate glue, all I need to do is just a drop and pretty much line it up with the center, put it on there, and then just a little finger pressure, and then that'll hold. That's it. That's all I'm going to need to do. So I'll get the rest of these done, marked up, ready for gluing, and then we'll glue it up. Alright, so we've got this all set up for the glue, and using that cyanoacrylate, same that we used to glue up the rest of the box. And I'm wearing one of these paper dust masks that you can see here. And it's a good idea to use at least something while you're sanding, because if you can look at this, I don't know how much you're going to see it, but it's pretty red from all that Redheart wood. And breathing it in and stuff like that, the mask traps a good amount of it. So it's always a good idea to have some kind of dust mask on. I'm wearing the dust mask now because of the fumes from the cyanoacrylate glue are pretty potent, and yeah, it can make your eyes water up and everything, and pretty unpleasant experience. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to put just a little bead, a little dot of glue here. I'm not going to hit it with accelerator. I don't really need to. Okay, not too much. Alright, and if you do get too much on there, then you can simply just wipe it off somewhere, a little sandpaper. If you get a little on your fingers, just rub your fingers with sawdust. That'll take away the crazy glue. Alright, so put a little bead on there. Not too much. I just want enough to get it so that it'll hold on to there. And then I'm going to put this on here. I'm going to figure out which way I want it. Do I want it like this? Do I want it like that? Probably looks a little bit better like this. Not that it really matters too much. And then I want to try and get it right in the middle. As close to the middle as I can get it. So if that means I have to do this, then I have to do it like this. And then we press it on there. And yeah, we're going to have a little bit of squeeze out, but what can you do? Yeah. That could have turned out a bit better. Oh, she slipped. Alright, if that ever happens, which it did, I'm going to take this over to the sandpaper and just gently sand it off. Alright, that's good. Alright, let's try this again. 2.0. And keep in mind, this is only my second bandsaw box I've ever made. So not too bad, if I say so myself. Alright, so we get this glue back on here. There we go. Just take that little excess off of there. And now, what I'm going to do is get this back approximate. Hold it down. Don't move it. Now we're beyond the point of no return at this point. I cannot do anything about it. So I'm going to push down, hold for about a count of 15 or so. Let that get set up. And then when that's taken care of, this is drawer number 4. As you can see by the number on the bottom there. I put it in. That's what it's going to look like pretty much right there. Alright, let me, moment of truth here. Let's pull it with its entire weight. There we go. Alright, let's get the other 3 taken care of. So this is for number 3. I've staggered these 1, 2, 3, 4 so I know which one I want for which. And I'll wipe this off. Put this here. Get my dab of glue ready here. Just a small drop, because I really don't want to deal with too much in the way of squeeze out at this point. Get this pretty much there, center. Push down. It's not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna be pretty darn close. Push, hold, count of about 15, just good thumb pressure straight down. Okay, and that's it. And that's what it's gonna look like. This one's number 3. Check it out there. It's not perfect, but it's good. Now we go to number 2, get that one taken care of, get number 1 done, and then it's on to the most fun part of it all, the finish. I'm going to put some oil on there and see how much we can get that grain to really show up. That's how she's going to look. Not too bad. pull it out. Moment of truth, see if she held. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. There you go. That's number 2. Last, not least. And then this project is coming to a close. We're going to bring it home. Alright, we're going to bring this here. Squeeze it. Good 15 seconds. And that's it. So, we're going to put this in. Alright, have a look at it. Not too shabby. Pull it. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Holds. Good. Alright, so that's number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. Let's stand this up and have a good look at it here. I'm going to bring these drawers out. Alright, let's see. So now we're ready for the finish. The last thing we need to do is just have a good quick look and see how this is going to turn out. Now the only way that I know as far as how to get these drawers to line up flush with the case is if I use my little 6-inch ruler here on edge and just push it right like that. Alright, I'll release that. And that's the way it's going to look when it's pretty much level. Now I can just do a micro adjust side to side because I can see a gap here and not so much of a gap here. But that's a bandsaw box. There's nothing you can do about that because you take the kerf away. When you take the kerf away and the kerf away here, this is what you end up with, a little couple of spaces. It'll never be an extremely tight fit, only because of the nature of the process of how this is made in the first place with the tools that you use to make it. There you go. Alright, so that's how it's going to look. I like it. I like it, I like it, I like it. Would I make those pulls slightly smaller? Maybe. But you know what? For a second bandsaw box I've ever made, I like this. Alright, so let me zoom in and I'll give you the tour here. Somebody wants my attention. So, that is the way it looks. Now all we got to do is get the finish on it. So I'm going to get my finishing materials ready and then we'll put that on and we're going to watch this sucker pop. Alright, let me get set up. Be back in a moment. Alright, so after some testing on some scrap pieces and a little bit of debating back and forth, it was basically boiled down to an option between walnut oil, antique Danish oil, natural color, no added colors or anything, or boiled linseed oil. So I applied some oil to some scrap pieces, I let it dry, I wait a little bit, and the one that I like best is the walnut oil look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some walnut oil, I'm going to pour it into here, about somewhere around the halfway mark or so, a little bit less. Now I'm going to put this on my coffee machine on the plate, the hot plate, and get this to warm up. Probably a good 2 minutes anyways, and get it nice and hot. And in the meantime I'll have these pulled out, cleaned up, and pretty much ready to be oiled up here. So I'll get that all prepared. We're using walnut oil. Here it is right here. And we'll be back in a minute. Alright, that's been a few minutes there. That's warmed up nicely. It's good and hot. And this will go and penetrate into the oil, into the wood much better than cold oil would. Alright, let's get this back onto the tripod. Alright, let's get these out of the way. And let's begin pouring on some oil. There's the difference for you right there. There you go. That's the difference. There you go. There's a big difference. So we're going to finish oiling this up here. Let's see how this looks once it's completely oiled. This walnut oil makes it look real nice. Get some oil off of that. Alright. Yeah, what a difference. What a difference. Alright, now we get oil on all sides here. Especially this end grain and stuff, it's really going to soak it up. There we go. Oops, wrong way. That is looking phenomenal. It's always amazing to put a finish on a project and see how the wood literally starts to actually come alive, really. As cheesy as that sounds to some people. Get right down in here too. Get all the surfaces covered with that walnut oil. Walnut oil is also food safe, unless you've got a nut allergy, of course, but you can use it on woodenware like wooden spoons and wooden forks, wooden salad bowls, that kind of thing. You get it at you can get it at different places, but where I got mine from it said Lee Valley right on it, so that kind of gives that away. Alright, so we got a good coat in there right now. Now I gotta get the front. We still got the drawers to do too. And I'm gonna fold this over because I gotta deal with some tighter spaces here. I can't use, whoops, too much. I don't want it to run on me out of control. This will be the first coat, and then I'm going to let this sit for probably an hour, maybe 2 hours. I'll just buff it out really lightly. And then what I'll do is I'll add another coat. And then let that one sit overnight. I'll put a good coat on. And then come back and hit it again tomorrow with another coat. I'm not sure exactly how many coats of oil I'm going to go for as far as this project goes. Probably until I don't notice any more of a richer depth coming through. Who knows, maybe after this coat I won't see it very much on the second coat. You never know. But I don't get that feeling. I'm just getting the insides here, getting the bottom, getting the sides, getting it all coated with the oil. Helps keep the wood from drying out as well. This process does take a little time, but it's the most enjoyable part of the whole thing. The project is complete. You're putting on the oil, or the finish, whatever finish you're choosing to put on. If you decide to do this project or you decide to do something different, whatever you choose for a finish, it's up to you. But certainly not much more satisfying than finishing the project and seeing it basically come to its finished state, and to see the oil or the shellac or whatever you're using turn around and bring out the actual color of the wood or life to the wood instead of this dried, parched looking wood. I mean, before I put the oil on, it was a nice color of wood, but if you look closely at it, it looked a little bit hazy, like it was just dying for some oil. Like this already, I put it on pretty wet, and certain areas are just soaking it in really quick. It's not really leaving any pools or anything, regardless of how thick I try to apply the oils. It's just drinking it right up, and the end grain right here has already soaked it up. You know, the end grain here is already soaked it up, but look at that, it's got a nice shine to it. And that's just one coat. That was just one rubbing of oil. This is kind of the second, I guess, a little bit soon, but yeah, you just keep rubbing the stuff in. It's looking dry already, so this is going to take quite a few coats of oil, which I'm kind of happy about. I really want to bring out as much of the depth of this wood as I possibly can. It's going to look nice just after this one coat, but if you can bring the depth out after like 5 or 6 coats, it's going to look different from this. It's going to be much deeper looking. But as far as redwood goes, I don't know how much deeper I'm going to get with this. So this is a bit of an experiment for me too here. This is the first time I've ever worked with this Redheart, or Chatke-Kok, whatever you want to call it, however you want to pronounce it. The first time I worked with such a big piece of it. Gotta get into the corners and everything. Good, good, good. Alright, so this is after the first coat. Let's see if we can bring this into more of a focus here. So there you are. That is nice looking wood. Alright, I'm going to get to those shelves, cupboards, drawers, whatever you want to term them, whatever you want to call them. Alright, so let's get this going here. Let's zoom in. Alright, and let's get some oil on there. Let's get that on there. Just flood that surface. Get the knob too on everything. I'm not gonna ignore that knob. African Blackwood is pretty oily to begin with. It's an exotic wood. It has its own natural oil, but there is nothing wrong with adding a little bit of extra oil, especially an oil as nice as this walnut is. Alright, then we get the sides. I'm not going to do the bottom yet because that'd be kind of foolish. Now I'm going to get to this ridge here without going in, so just going to be careful of that. There we go. And I'll go across the top. And again, cut across this way now. Now this is end grain, again, because the fibers are running up this way, right? So this is your end grain here. Same on the sides here. So this will soak up a little bit more oil, and it'll give you a darker kind of a look. Usually that's what end grain ends up doing. It gives you a bit of a darker look than the rest of the wood. So hopefully it doesn't look too much different. Also depends, I guess, how much oil you try soaking into it. Certain woods absorb it better than others. Alright. So we're going to let that dry after I do the back side. That would be a good idea. There we go. That is a nice wood. Alright. Okay, so we're going to let that soak in. And then we move on to our next shelf. Or drawer. Keep getting this all goofed up here. Alright, so we're going to flood the surface here with oil. Bandsaw boxes are not hard to do. They are a lot of fun, but it depends how much detail you want to put into it. This box here, from start to finish, took me probably, I would say, 3 days. It's going to take me 3 days. So far this is day 2. Day 3 is going to be just putting on nothing but oil. All in all, bandsaw boxes usually only take about maybe 2 days. 1 day when you prepare your stock if you're working with rough lumber. By the time you plane it and join it and sand it and get it all whatever, or I shouldn't say sanding it, by the time you get it all to thickness through the thickness planer and everything, and then by the time you've got it laminated, you got the glue up, and you can't do anything for at least 12 hours. So by the time you've got it done, depending on what time it is, but for most people they have it done and glued up by the afternoon or evening or whatever. So you might as well just leave it for overnight, and then when you come back to it the next day, then you start working again. So you lose several hours having to wait for the glue to dry. But then once the glue is dry, you just clean it up if there's any glue squeeze out. And then if you have your pattern, you can spray on a pattern, or if you're going to freehand draw it, you freehand draw it. But whether you've glued a pattern on or you've drawn it out, the cutting doesn't take too long. And then after you cut your shape out, you can cut the 3/8 of an inch of the back off, or then after that you work on your drawer and everything like that. But anyways, without rambling on, I think that's got it. I'm so focused on this here. So by the time you get everything done, a bandsaw box can be done in 2 days. Because if the design is fairly simple, you can just easily cut everything out, glue up your drawer front if it's just one drawer, or if it's 2 drawers or whatever. The more drawers, the more work it's going to be, obviously. This four drawers, you had to do 4 separate processes, like 4 times. Like it just starts to add up as far as time goes. So if it's just a 1 drawer project, you can have one done in 2 days. Something like this, 2 to 3 days, depending on how many hours you can devote to it each day. But I'm going to lose an extra day just on the finish, like I said, because I'm going to be adding quite a few coats of oil to this. Alright, so it's looking good. So all we can do now is let this sit. I'm going to let it sit for about an hour. Then I'll come back and buff it out with a dry rag or shop towel or whatever you want to call it. And then we'll add our next coat, and then we'll leave that for overnight. And then buff it out in the morning, and then continue adding more coats from there. Let's see what we got here. Alright, I'm going to put this thing together quickly and just see how it's going to look. So we got here, that's number 2. We got here 3. Here number 4. And then we've got you. Alright, look at that. Alright, so let's line these up. I'm just going to take my little 6-inch ruler and just kind of gently tap that in place. And that'll come to a stop exactly where it needs to. There we go. Alright, let's get this shop rag out of the way. Let's get some light on this thing here without it getting in the way of the camera, of course. Bring you forward. Alright. And there you go. You know, whoever thought lighting would be so blasted tricky, huh? My goodness. There. That's about as good as it's gonna get. Alright. Alright, we'll let that sit. And I'll come back, buff it out, throw another coat on. Once I'm finished, then you'll see the finished product here. And yeah, sure you'll agree it's a nice project, worth doing. We're back. This is after the second coat here. This is how it's been looking. And we're going to still be putting a few more coats on. What I've noticed about the drawers, it's kind of a good thing I chose the walnut oil, because walnut oil won't go rancid, it doesn't have a bad odor and stuff. So I'm lucky with that, because on the inside, what started happening is the drawers, the end grain has been soaking up so much of the oil, it's been kind of getting to the inside. So I'm going to have to give it one light coat of oil just to make this look a little more uniform. But I'm going to continue with the coats of oil. I've got another little thing of walnut oil over there on the coffee maker's hot plate warming up. So I'm going to add another coat to this. I'm probably going to keep going until I see that the wood is taking either a long time to absorb it or I'm not noticing any further change. But this is after 2 coats, and it's getting that really rich, deep color to it. You can see some of the darker reds, the almost what looks like a deeper red, almost like a black, and then you get some of the yellowy highlights here. It's a really, really nice looking piece. And the ash wood is really a nice contrast to how this is all looking. So I'm going to go grab the oil. We're going to put another coat on, and then we're going to let that dry. So right now we're just waiting for that oil to heat up. And what's really nice is these drawer pulls actually turned out really nice. So we're going to get this all taken apart again. Whatever order doesn't matter, I've still got the numbers written on the bottom so I know who goes where. Our oil is heated up, so what we're going to do is put on our third coat and see how it goes. So here we go. Now, for this, I probably am going to do myself more harm than good mentioning this, but this ridge that was on there from before, you probably remember when we were cutting, this little bandsaw line that happened here because of the way it was cut. I was going to sand it off, but I decided not to because of the way that it fits into the bottom here. If you look at the very bottom corner, don't know if you can see it, but you'll see how there's that little bit of a lip in there too. So just to keep it so that it would look good and tight, I left it alone, because if I took it away, then you would notice that gap, and it would just be something that it would be noticeable, but maybe not by everybody, but especially for me, it would drive me nuts every time I'd look at it. So I decided to just leave it there. It's not really that noticeable. Until you pull the drawer out, you'll notice it. But you only really notice it when you pull the drawer out. I'd rather have it noticeable that way when you pull the drawer out. Oh, woohoo, that was close, baby. Woo! I'd rather, let me get a good grip on this. Flipping oil is slippery. I'd rather have it noticeable only when you open the drawer than when it's always closed. You notice it a lot less often. As Scott Phillips once said in one of his episodes, if I would have dropped that, that would be ruinous. I love watching Scott Phillips. I got some of his old episodes from the 90s there, when he was still a young Ned Flanders looking kind of a guy. Yes, every time I see Scott Phillips in those younger videos, I keep thinking Ned Flanders. But I learned a lot from that show, that American Woodshop. He does teach you as he's doing the woodworking, and I've picked up some pretty valuable lessons from watching his show. So I highly doubt Scott Phillips is ever going to watch my YouTube video, but if by any miraculous off chance that Scott Phillips does happen to see this show or video of mine here, it's not really a show, but this video, I'd like to say thank you for the show and what I've learned from you. I've taken that and applied that to several of my own woodworking projects. That's looking pretty good. It's hard to get into these corners. That's why I'm taking so blasted long here. That's the one downside about doing 90-degree corners if you got to get in there with oil and stuff. Ay, goo. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Just wanted one thin coat in there. Alright, even that out. Now, if there is one thing that I must say, is that this project turned out to look a little bit better than I was expecting it to. Now, if there is a possible way to begin some kind of a challenge, you know what would be great? Like an ice bucket challenge. Of course, I'm not going to start that kind of a thing, but if I could begin a challenge to use a certain type of wood to make a project, I'd be interested to see if Scott Phillips, give me the camera here, hang on a second. I'd like to see Scott Phillips do a project with Redheart. I challenge you, Scott Phillips. Will you accept? Huh? Wouldn't that be something? My little tiny YouTube video sparks off something. A Redheart challenge. There you go. The Redheart challenge. I like it. Sounds good. Alright, and as Scott Phillips would say, looking good. Alright, that's enough of that. Okay, so we've got our third coat on there. I'm going to let that sit, and then from there we'll buff it out, and then I'm going to see about adding more coats to that from there. I'm not going to put any more on the inside. One coat will be enough. I don't know how well you can see the inside, but it's here, that'll be better. Let's get the light over here. There. Why didn't I think of that in the first place? So there you go. That's what it's going to look like on the inside. That'll kind of dry up a little bit, but without being too dry. One side gets all the oil, the other doesn't. That really can't be good for future expansion and such like that, and moisture and all that scientific stuff. Okay, so we've got that taken care of. The oil is on there, soaking in. Keep the shop heater going because it's still winter. So, this is what we've got. We're going to let that sit. And then when we come back, you're going to see the finished product. So it could be a day, it could be, who knows, later tonight, I don't know. It could be a couple of days, don't know. But when it's finished, we'll have it all set together and show you what the final thing looks like. It's going to be nice. We'll see you when we're ready to do the final presentation. Well, it's all done. Everything's come together quite nicely. I'm very happy with the result. It took 3 coats of oil to get it to this point, and I'm pretty happy with where we're at. If I keep adding more oil at this point, I think what's going to happen is I'm going to lose some of the yellow coloring, some of the lighter coloring, because the oil is, with more coats, seems to be making the wood get a little darker and darker. So I'm pretty happy with the way this is, and the oil was sitting on top of there for a pretty decent amount of time. So it was pretty much getting to the point of being saturated at that point. The end grain took a little bit more, of course, for obvious reasons. But I'm really happy with the way this whole thing has turned out. The drawers and everything, it's pretty smooth, it looks sharp. It's got a really nice look to it. So I'm really happy. And I'm really surprised about the pulls that I've made here. The chamfering that I've done, and the total length, 3/8 of an inch, is just perfect enough for you to get your fingers in there and to be able to pull it out and have a good grip on it. So all in all, the project itself took about 4 days. First day was getting the stock done, all milled and jointed and thickness planed and all that fun stuff, and then laminated. We got it all glued up. I let that sit overnight, and then the next day I came back, scraped off that squeeze out and cleaned it all up, and then drew my pattern that I wanted, and then got it all cut out. Cut the drawers out, which was a bit of an issue there. I wanted the 90-degree angle corners, but if I did just a single entrance cut, I wouldn't have been able to get that accomplished, even with the 1/8 inch blade that I've got on my bandsaw. Because what would end up happening is I'd have maybe a straight cut on this side here, but when I come over to here, I'd have to make that turn, and there's no way with a 1/8 inch blade, even with a 32nd of an inch blade, it would be almost impossible with even the scrolling blade to do a perfect 90-degree angle without having it show up somehow on the wood. So I was debating and debating, how am I going to do this? I wanted the sharp corners. I didn't want it to be rounded. I didn't want a leafy effect. I didn't want, anything other than my design. And this is basically the way I've designed it. I drew it by hand. I did not follow any pattern. I hand drew it and cut it out. This part here where these wings are, this was a design change. The original way that this was just an arch and then coming straight down. I obviously used a straight edge to get the straight lines and stuff, and I wanted feet on the bottom so it wouldn't be just a flat bottom, so it wouldn't look so boxy or so much like a rectangle with a curve on the top. So I had the legs already drawn out the way I wanted, but this up here kept bothering me, and I literally had it on the bandsaw up against the blade. All I had to do was turn the power on and begin cutting, but I was looking at it and I was thinking, something's not right. Something's just, it's not finished looking. So, and then I thought about it, and then I realized, you know what, it would be nice if we can come down and just put a little bit of a lip here, a little bit of a lip or a wing or whatever you want to call it. So I drew it out, I changed the pattern around just a little bit, and when I cut it out, it made all the difference. It gives it that really more of an elegant look to it. And I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I really am. The colors of the wood when I put the oil on, it's just a night and day difference from that parched, pale, dried out looking Redheart look that it had. Even though it looked good, it was a nice looking wood, but once you put the oil to it, now it looks luxurious. It looks like something you want to open, something you want to kind of handle, something that you want to show off. This isn't something that you just put off in some obscure corner or put it away somewhere. This is somewhere you display this. You put this in a library, or you put this in on a dresser, a clean dresser with almost as a showpiece. And I'm really surprised with how the drawers turned out. Everything turned out really good. As far as sanding, I didn't really sand these drawers out too much because I didn't want these big gaps, and I knew that was going to happen if I started sanding the drawer faces too much. The back one doesn't matter too much because you don't really see it. It's the front one that matters the most. So what I ended up doing, in order to kind of get the rough edges out, I didn't sand it right perfect, like a perfect arch. I didn't do that. All I did is I took some sandpaper and I just kind of rubbed it like this. I went this way about 4 times, I turned it around, and then I went this way about 3 or 4 times, and that was it. And then I just cleaned it up, and that was the end of it. That's all I did to smooth this out. And then the same thing with the sandpaper in here. I just kind of a little scuff sanding just to get rid of some of the fuzziness of it, just to give it a slight smoothing out. Just a couple rubs here, 3 or 4 up here and off to the side here. So this way I wouldn't have a gap that was too big. Now, you could do little things to it. I could have added some flocking in there, that velvety kind of a look inside. But you know what? This, I could do that. But why? I thought about it and I just decided, you know what? This looks pretty darn good on its own without having to use flocking or add steps or put things to this project that really just weren't necessary. So I decided to leave it alone. So there we go. So I'm quite happy with that. And the way that the Redheart and the ash came together, I'm actually quite pleased with it. But this really turned out great. What I ended up doing here is, so I can make more of these if I wanted to, is I outlined the pattern. All I did here is just do an outline of it with a pencil and one of the drawer. And then if I want, I'm going to photocopy this, and from the photocopies I can cut it out and use some spray-on adhesive, slap it on, and then cut my pattern from there. This way I don't have to do hand drawing every time because it's always going to wind up different. I'm not very good at hand drawing at all. I can do one side the way I want, but when it comes to the other side, I just louse it right up. So, same thing with the drawer, just outline the drawer and that's it. Photocopies, I've got templates now forever. So, I highly recommend that if you're interested or thinking about doing a bandsaw box, they're really fun and easy to do. And this design, actually, was not the original intent. I was actually going to have this on its side, like my first bandsaw box, and I was going to have it kind of, a little bit of a wing again, and it was going to be slightly curved and a couple of feet like this at the bottom here. But I was going to have just 2 drawers. I was going to have one here and one here. But when I kept looking at it upright like this, I thought, you know what? It kind of has that little bit of like a highboy look to it if I do the feet and stuff right to it. So I decided on this, and I thought, you know what would be really cool if it turns out really well, and I'm glad it did, that it would be neat to have a deep red kind of a color with the yellow streaking, and not to accent the the drawer pulls with some bright color, like ash or Pau Amarello or some kind of light wood. I didn't want to take away from the red, deep, luxurious color of this. So that's why I chose African Blackwood. It's got a natural shine to it, a natural sheen. It did also get the walnut oil, it did, but it's got its own natural oils in it. But it doesn't take away from the overall appearance or the look. If anything, it adds to it. And I'm really happy with the way it's chamfered and the way it looks and stuff like that. I had 2 drawer pulls that I could choose from, and I chose this style here. When my wife said, well, why not just cut across? I spent a while thinking, how would that not work? Because the last thing you want to do is make a cut and ruin everything, and then it becomes scrap. Or I have to modify it and make it a shorter version. It would be a lowboy version. But I thought about it, and the only issue that I came up with was that when I cut this into sections, right, there was 5 pieces. There was this piece on the bottom with the feet, This one is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and the top was 5. So the only issue I thought of was when I glue this back together using cyanoacrylate glue, because other glues would be just a little too thick and noticeable, that when you put it down, you've only got a few seconds. You don't have much time when you're working with the crazy glue. And especially if you're using an accelerator, you've got even less time. So the trick was getting it on there and square really quickly, doing it 4 times. This piece here onto this piece, this onto this, this onto this, and this onto this. So there was this top piece here that was just slightly off. And I'm talking so slight, like we're looking at about maybe a 32nd of an inch, maybe even closer to a 64th of an inch, I don't know. I haven't measured it. But you can see just a slight bit off. But the thing about that is not only is it, you know, about the look, but if you've got something protruding just a little bit, that takes a lot of sanding, a remarkable amount of sanding, depending on the species of wood. You know, if this was ash wood sticking out here, it's harder than the Redheart, as far as I know anyways. I'd have to double check that. But it would take a ton of sanding to get down to a flush level. So you know, if you're not bang on, you're creating a lot more work for yourself. Plus, if this was off by any more than that, I would probably have to recut it and then re-glue it, like sand it to get that glue off and then re-glue it. So it turned out good. I'm happy with the result. And yeah, there's nothing else I can really say about this. Yeah, that's it. All of it has come to an end. This will find a home somewhere in my house and be a great showpiece. So I hope you enjoyed it. I've had fun making it. And yeah, go out and build yourself one. Doesn't take much, just it takes a little bit of time and practice. Don't forget, after you've cut it out, cut the back off, cut out your drawers, cut out the front and back of your drawers, and then hog out your inside there. The waste goes away. Glue on the front and the back. Make sure it's all nice and tight and square. Let that sit, dry, and then once it's all done, put your drawer pulls on if you're going to do drawer pulls, or you could cut out a little groove for finger holes if you want to do it that way, and put your finish of choice on, and you're done. So, hope you enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. That's about it. Take care. Go make something. I can't get the camera off now.